On. Thank you, Chairman. My distinguished colleagues on the dais, ladies and gentlemen, I'm acutely aware that I'm probably one of the very few representatives of business and industry in this forum, and you will be excused if you look upon me with great suspicion. It was very interesting this morning when I was listening to some of the speeches during the inauguration, that while everybody talked about the need for partnerships between government, NGOs, institutions, and academia, hardly anybody spoke about industry. And I would like to commend to you that industry has to be embraced in this entire journey, because industry has a lot to give in terms of actually getting contacts with people, with the impact that they have and the influence that they have. And I would strongly urge that that kind of a partnership actually comes into being. I would like to just talk to you about 3 examples of which I am familiar in the companies that I worked in, where we actually got together the projects that we did in CSR and incorporated education within that. They're small examples, and they're not those that can be used for large numbers, but it is a very good example. The first one I'd like to talk about is something we did in Gujarat. About 15 years ago, the whale shark, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with, which is the largest fish in the world, was a threatened species. And the whale shark would come up the coast of Gujarat for breeding. And they were being killed in large numbers by the fishermen on the coastline, just to take the oil out of their livers. And where was that oil being used? In boats for waterproofing. And later on, when fishing itself became difficult, they were starting to sell the meat. Well, we started a program in partnership with the fishermen, with the community, with the Coast Guard, with the Environmental Department of Gujarat, and with the government of Gujarat, and put together a program to educate them and stop this slaughter. But it really actually got traction when we finally got the help of somebody who's very familiar to many of you in Gujarat, the spiritual leader Morari Bapu. He came on board, and he actually invoked this entire concept that the Honorable Governor talked about of the household, the integrated household, and how which household would deny a daughter into the house when she was going to have a baby. And that's exactly what was happening with the whale shark. It was coming here to have its babies. And it actually struck a tremendous chord. And within 3 years, the slaughter stopped. And today, the whale shark is swimming freely off the coast of Gujarat, which is an enormous accomplishment, but it happened because of this partnership. And in the process of that partnership, not only did the employees of Tata Chemicals who were involved in it learn, but the fishermen learned. I dare say the members of the Coast Guard and government officials learned. So it was a wonderful win-win kind of a situation. The second example that I'd like to talk about is in energy. The other company that I was involved with is Tata Power. When we started looking at sustainability being incorporated into our strategy, we started talking about how do we educate and who do we educate. And of course, very quickly we came to the conclusion that we needed to talk to children. So we picked the age group of 10 to 16, started in Mumbai, and started with the affluent schools because we knew that that was where the greatest consumption was going on. We talked to them and taught them about energy conservation, about sustainability and carbon footprints. And 6-7 years later, we covered more than 1 million children in the country. And I know in between that it was succeeding because a friend of mine rang me up one day and said, "What on earth are you doing? You know, I've got huge problems in my house. My daughter refuses to allow me to travel alone in a car. And my daughter says all air conditioners have to be set at 25 degrees and nobody will have a shower. They'll all have a multi bath. So I said, great, that's success. So that again happened not because of Tata Power. We didn't have all the knowledge. We didn't have the capability. But we worked with NGOs. We worked with principals of schools. We worked with the education department of the Maharashtra government. And it came about. The third thing, which was more at home, is that as a continuum of all this, we said that why can't our employees now talk about reducing their carbon footprint? So we actually asked everybody to calculate their monthly carbon footprint, declare it, and then actually set goals to say, how can we reduce this by 10%? I must confess here that the worst carbon footprint was mine. But there it was. It was all out in the open. And we were able to actually get employees to come up with suggestions on how to reduce this carbon footprint. All these examples are just to show you that a huge amount of education on sustainability, on biodiversity, can happen within industries and by the confluence of industry and civil society and government. And I do believe that industry has the capability of making change happen much faster than any other agency. And therefore, it is very necessary for us to be involved. So I'd just like to conclude by saying, please do include industry. Please embrace them. I think they're also wanting to embrace civil society. And together, I'm sure we can make a difference much, much faster. Thank you very much.